So we took a baby break, which was awesome. It gives us a break too, and maybe not Mama, but no. So during the break, though, we were talking a little bit about younger people and maybe what they can do, but also some of the pressures they're under. I was wondering if you could elucidate that a little bit as you were talking about it.
Yeah, I do want young people to feel empowered, like Yarrow said, but I also don't want it to feel like it's their sole responsibility to fix the world. Mm-hmm. They can't.
Right.
They need help, and
Right, it's systemic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they need that modeled, and they need guidance. We need to do better, too, for them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, even if you're not directly like their parent or their teacher or something like that, even this experiment in this house, which is a joyous experiment, I mean, this is a model for that. Mm-hmm. This is totally a model for that.
Yeah, I think that most of what I mean by like empowering the children is, like giving them the support to feel the freedom to be who they want to be and to find that out. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, when your child says, I'm gay, and they're 8, you say, okay, what does that mean to you? And don't fight against it, because who cares? They're 8.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They also think they're magic right now, and they are actually magic right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But, like, it doesn't...
I was enjoying your little kid smile.
Yeah.
I've been having a hard time, and I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, like, enjoy that. Enjoy the children and let them just explore. Like, that is for all kids, not just 8-year-olds, for, like, 25-year-olds, too. Like... I think there's a lot of pressure I felt a lot of pressure that like I couldn't make mistakes, and like I had to, that there was a destination. Like one day I was gonna figure out who I was and who I was gonna be, and then that was it.
Right.
So then
so it's not a process. It's just get there. To the end.
Get there to the end, and then live that end until you're done. And I don't know, the minute in my life that I kind of discovered that wasn't my goal, at least. Like, maybe it is some people's goal, and that's fine. Everybody gets to make their own goals. My goal, though, is just to kind of keep going and see what happens.
Yeah.
And the amount of things about myself and about the people around me and what I value and what I enjoy in life that have changed, even in the last 2 months of discovering new things about myself, have been very eye-opening to what is actually the healthy way for probably a lot of people, maybe not all, but definitely for my children, I think, to just be able to explore and enjoy what they've found for as long as they want to, if it's not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Like, if what my child found was like, I really enjoy poking my brother with a pin needle, we would definitely like maybe monitor that a bit.
Yeah.
But, like...
appropriate boundaries are a good thing, too.
And also that, like, teaching my child, I don't feel like boundaries were set up. Like, I wasn't taught how to set up boundaries or how to respect them.
Yeah, or consent.
As a child,
learning about
consent has been a very large one in our household,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's taught to everyone.
Yeah.
I think that starting to get some of these base things, though, taught to more people, not just children, all of us. You can learn how to respect consent and boundaries at any age.
Yeah.
You don't have to be it's great if you can learn that as a child, but if you can't, you got time.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really healthy thing to start building better communities in Spokane and other cities, because the healthier that the population of the people are, the healthier the cities and communities are going to be. So like if you just start grassroots base level with whatever people you have in your life and start to be like, well, I guess I'm going to set up boundaries and hope you respect them, and if you don't, we'll keep working on it. And I'm committed to that. I'm committed to you. I'm committed to you in a relationship with you, and I'm committed to working on these things with you. And we're going to do that.
Yeah.
I think that is where it starts. And that can be with someone who's a newborn or somebody who's 85. It doesn't really matter.
Right, because
it just continues to build things.
And older people, maybe they weren't taught that when they were younger too, so so it's really a service to them as well.
Yes. and to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because the more people respect your boundaries, the better off you're going to be, you know? Like, and the more people whose boundaries you respect, the more people who are in your world, who want to be in your world.
Yeah.
The amount of times I think about, man, I wonder if that person who doesn't like me anymore could have maybe still liked me if I had known how to respect their boundaries at that time in my life. You know? Yeah. Like, instead of burning bridges because I didn't know what I was doing, it would have been, you know,
but maybe
nice to be able to build some.
After learning that, maybe there's a way to come back.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think that also just, like, that is something I'm trying to teach my younger children, because I feel that's going to help them in their whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, these are the things that I value and I think would be good for them to have.
It's interesting. Recently, I don't follow the bills real closely, but just because I think if I did, I would feel a little bit like sad, like really sad, actually, kind of nutty. And but I've heard that they, some school districts, not necessarily here, but in other states, are taking out or threatening health topics like around sexuality and gender, and also consent in that sort of talk. And it's really horrible because I mean it's absolutely necessary for protection of your own children to have that knowledge. I'm actually very frightened with that. I feel like we're really going backwards. Yeah, I felt like we were making maybe a little progress, and now it's like being stripped away.
I always say, well, that pendulum has to swing both ways. So
I don't know. I don't agree with that.
I'm glad that you don't. I don't want it to.
Yeah.
Like I hope maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. I would like to be wrong.
Yeah.
I'll be wrong about it. Okay. I'll pick wrong.
I also don't really think about it as progress or aggression, because these are policies that have been around for hundreds of years, and they resurface and they are changed in so many different ways. So we have iterations across history to understand them.
Yeah, like people just didn't suddenly become racist or homophobic, and no. They just feel more emboldened maybe to scream about it down the street or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably some of them felt that way the whole time.
Yeah.
Probably some of them felt that way the whole time. I think that I have an aunt who works in Idaho as she was a senator there for a while.
Really?
Yes. Wow.
Idaho has some problems too.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
She is not. Anyway,
is she helpful or
no?
Okay.
No, she is not.
Okay.
No, she is very, very much of her state.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't see her a lot.
Okay.
But
and that's just right over here.
Yeah, it's real close. It's fun. But it's been, for me with that has been very eye-opening for me, because it shows you what you have to kind of work against in a very real time.
Yeah.
Like, she one time whispered in my ear, "One day I'll change the way you think." Twice.
Wow.
At Christmas.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's in your family.
Yeah, that's my aunt,
wow.
my dad's sister. Yeah. She used to babysit me as a kid. Really, we're lucky I turned out the way I did. Like, real talk. But, so I don't know. For me, that's been like, you can like look at that and see. Like, take the pulse a little bit, We're lucky. She didn't get reelected because she was called a rhino, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, that's scary.
Weird.
Yeah, real frightening.
Yeah, so she wasn't radical right-wing enough.
She wasn't hateful enough to be one of their friends still.
Yeah.
Shoot patoot.
Yeah, I wonder about that influence over here, though, because, Eastern Washington and, of course, Oregon famously are, the counties out here are voting to become part of Idaho, although that has to be ratified federally, so it's just not going to happen. It's just a performance is what it is. Yeah. But it makes it so clear who they hate, by doing that. Mm-hmm. What does that feel like for you? I mean, we just talked about how it's been, it's never actually stopped. Oppression has never actually stopped. But when things like this happen that are just so obvious and big, what does that feel like? Sorry, is that a weird question?
No,
I'm sorry.
I heard a thud.
Okay. Oh, the
I
baby.
was like, wait, what's that thud?
Okay.
Well, I often think about where we are geographically located because there are so many white nationalist groups surrounding us.
Hayden Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that informs a lot of the local politics and the mentalities. I mean, it is predominantly white here.
And the people who move here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like it informs the people who move here because if you're looking for your like-minded foe, if your like-minded folk are all big racists, then it's a good place to find them. Yeah. It's a hard place to be a person of color and a hard place to be a queer person. And it can be a little scary at times. I've had I've lived here most of my life and I've had a lot of scary things happen to me and to people I cared about in all kinds of different communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed too that there's a really heavy kind of surveillance state surveillance here, or even like the corporations like Safeway or whatever, like they have kind of like these robots in the parking lots that shout out to you, "I'm here to keep you safe." And it seems really strange. I was thinking the other day that this is the kind of community where maybe law enforcement tries out different things to see if it'll work in bigger places.
Yes.
Do you think that's true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answer, yes, I do. I think Spokane has been, fast food joints try out their fast food stuff here too. I think
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's an interesting it's an interesting population of, let's see what works. I mean, my brother-in-law who lives in New York told me that they see billboards in Times Square asking for police officers from New York, saying, "Come to Spokane, work here. Here are all the great benefits.
Sure.
You get paid as much as in New York, but lower cost of living."
Sure.
I think that's a very interesting thing
And you
that we're
can do
doing.
outdoorsy things.
Exactly. Yay! And the hospitals do it too. They
Yeah.
ask for people from other, doctors from all over the place to come here. And I think that's both good and bad, It depends on who you're bringing,
Yeah.
I think that it'd be really cool if Spokane, and it does get this too, but not as, I don't know, maybe it's not as loudly, gets, more diversity. Have some influx of some people that are not more interesting, but diverse. Yes, so kind of more interesting. Like groups of people that aren't just more rich white people to buy up the historically black neighborhoods. Why don't we get some interesting black people?
Yeah.
More people of color, more anybody.
Artists.
Yeah, artists. And because we do actually have a pretty thriving artist community here. Like there are reasons for artists to come to Spokane. Unfortunately, a lot of it's white right now, but I do see a lot of people like artists of color really kind of pushing their narratives now. And I think that's very good for this city. I mean, as I think we all agree, the more diverse people and communities that you live in, kind of the healthier the community is. So I feel like Spokane, I think honestly it just needs less white people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be anything. I just think that let's bring in some other people who aren't just white.
Right. And you have an influx of a lot of white people. So I can see why you're saying that, because it's what is this, an invasion? Is this another kind of colonialism?
Yeah, it does feel similar to that. Not in that there's a genocide. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but not yet. But it does feel it feels like being pushed out of your city.
Yeah.
And it feels like that. And it feels like it feels like that because that's what's happening. The neighborhood that I lived in that was historically black, all of the most recent implants to it have been white people. Some of them are white queers, so I guess that's cool. But
like I was saying earlier, though, they're oftentimes the leading edge of gentrification.
I know.
Yeah.
Us artists too. Yeah.
Artists too.
I've been the first wave before. I'm not super proud of that. I'm probably the first wave right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm aware. I guess the only thing you can be is aware. I can't keep white people from buying houses in neighborhoods they want to, unfortunately. But I do watch it happen. I have been watching it happen for about at least my whole adult life, I've been watching slowly but surely the interesting neighborhoods where different friends of mine or I have lived over the years. They don't look the same anymore as they did when we moved in there. We don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
We've been pushed out also, you know?
What do you think? I mean, I'm thinking about how to use the state against itself in a way. Do you think that, more laws, sometimes it's like, whatever, who's going to enforce that, right?
Yeah.
They hardly ever get enforced.
You have to want to.
Yeah, you have to want to, right. But what do you think that something like, maybe some local ordinances about, growth boundaries or Airbnbs, like, these sort of, they're basically hotels, right? But they don't operate as hotels. They don't pay the taxes.
Yeah.
Public oversight of the police, for instance. Are there any sort of avenues that you can see that, using the state against itself that could help, I guess?
What do you think?
Yeah. What do you think? It's kind of a big question. It's like, solve the problem.
Yeah.
Bing.
I think policy could definitely help. Oftentimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it's used to oppress. But if we actually had policymakers and writers that cared about making the material changes that we need in this country, sure. I don't think that's necessarily the only avenue. There needs to be a lot of more working parts. But I think in terms of surveillance capitalism or data colonialism, as I call it, when or the theory that I like best is...
I've never heard of this.
It's basically the theory that corporations are here to colonize people's attention. And so because of the history of colonialism and capitalism and the advancement of technology, it operates much like colonialism with capitalism intertwined. And the whole point is to colonize a human life.
Okay.
And so...
so they can't do radical things like what you're doing, like creating communities and being very involved with their children in a way that gives them a lot of freedom, that sort of thing.
I think it's more about the service. It does hinder a lot of the processes of being alive.
Okay.
But also it's the technology and the bus where you're being recorded and in audio, right? You're being recorded. And so, or it's the technology in our phones, tracking our GPS and, algorithms that are racist and all of the isms, right? It inhabits our daily lives. And I don't know if Spokane is necessarily a trial for data colonialism because it is global and we do have Atlanta's Cop City, right? So that's already in motion.
That's true.
But I feel like Spokane definitely implements all of the same things.
Yeah.
You may be right. You probably are right.
Yeah, I think
right. Sorry.
I think you are right. I have noticed, maybe it's because it's a smaller city. I've just noticed it a lot more.
You see it,
yeah. Maybe that's it, or maybe it's who knows? Maybe it's the neighborhoods I'm going into because I'm doing gig work, so I'm probably sending massive amounts of junk food to white people instead of communities of color where maybe it's implemented more around in the U.S. One thing I will, just as a small example of what I saw earlier today, I was in a Safeway parking lot and that weird robot thing was there.
I know
and
the
was,
one you're talking about.
It was talking about, I'm keeping you safe or whatever. Okay. Actually, let's okay, so I was over at Safeway and I hadn't never seen this before, but there was that weird robot and it was telling us how it was keeping us safe, I guess. And I got to say I was a little bit scared cuz I had never seen that before, and I saw a very disabled lady. She even had like wrappings on her legs. I'm not sure what that was about. Maybe she had some ulcerations. Very ill, you know, she had a cane and that sort of thing. And she was just standing there and she said hello to some people. And then an older Asian man came over and gave her a bunch of money. And at first he sort of flourished the money. He was like, you know, look what I'm doing. And then he gave it to her. And I wondered what was going on there. Why was he showing this money and then giving it to her? But then I thought, oh, it's because he's under surveillance. That's why. Right? So he wasn't showing what a good guy he was. He was showing that, look, I'm not giving her drugs or something like that. I think that was the case, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So it was guiding somebody's behavior.
Yeah.
In spite of him doing a really good thing, he had to perform. Look, I'm not.
Please don't tackle me.
Yes, please don't arrest me. I'm just giving money to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, weird.
Yeah. Very
Yeah. What
weird.
a strange experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking a little bit as you were visiting your sweet little child.
You call them sweet.
Yeah. I'm not a parent, so.
Yeah. Makes it easier to
Yes,
call them sweet.
that's
Yeah.
right.
I get it.
That's right.
I get it.
I can be like, "Oh, you little angel," and then leave.
Yeah.
No
You
diapers.
Sure you don't want to take one with you? Are you
Well,
sure?
I have a furry one over on the floor.
That's true. That's
That's
true.
true.
He probably needs a little bit of guidance and love also.
A little bit, yeah. He's very good though. Obviously, he's very patient. He's
Yeah,
just
he's
laying there and
chilling.
just he's cool. So we were talking a little bit about kind of like blueprints of because you all are living in a way that is different, and you've obviously done a lot of study. I mean, I'm looking at your bookshelf there and thinking I want many of those books or to read them. You know, I'm very covetous, which I'm terrible at. You know, when it comes to books. Sorry about that. But you know, it does take a lot of study, a lot of thinking, a lot of internal work and that sort of thing, and community building. All that stuff is really hard. So if somebody wants to sort of repeat this or make their own version of it, how would they do that? You were talking a little bit about that while we were on break there.
I think first and foremost, it's that community building part so that you have people that you trust and love and respect, and you've had that relationship to know that it can sustain a process like this.
Yeah, Sam and I were not strangers before we moved in together. We've known each other for 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that helps. Like we've been through a lot as people separately and together that has brought us here. I think that helps. So I would agree that start out in the beginning with people that you know you can trust, and build trust with those people.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like away from you. It's like who's around you already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are those people
Yeah.
that if you were to boil it all away, like who are the people you'd grab from the fire? Yeah. Obviously your kids, hopefully. And then, but who's next?
Yeah.
Or when you have a fire, who are the people that were really there for you? You know? Who are the people that like stepped up and helped you with things when you needed things? Those are probably your people.
Yeah.
You know?
And when you're desperate or feeling ashamed or embarrassed or all those hard emotions.
Yeah. Who are the people that when you do really, really silly, stupid things or you have a mental spiral or breakdown, who are the people that say, hey, it's okay. Like you really can't do that anymore, but it's okay that you did. Like who are those people that you can actually live with and get through some real life things with? Because like this is real life.
Yeah.
You know? Like living together isn't easy. It's real life.
Yeah.
You know?
Like earlier we were talking about flourishing and kind of this freedom, but then also boundaries at the same time, having appropriate, loving boundaries. Yeah. It's something that is an iteration that goes on all the time. I feel like. Yeah.
And boundaries are, I think, constantly developing. So like people that you know you can have conversations with, you can continue to have conversations with, do not expect it to be, oh, well, we had a conversation and so it's done. It's like, we had a conversation, that's the first of probably 600, you know?
Okay.
And whenever either person or people, whenever anyone feels like there's a need for more conversations, everybody has to be like, oh, you have to be like, oh, I'm dropping everything, but you also have to be like, yes, I will make time. There is room in my life for you and your emotions in the appropriate time.
Yeah.
You know, and respecting those for everybody.
I remember when I was trying to be part of some group efforts when I was younger. I do less of that now, and I'm sorry, that's my sort of admission. Yeah, it's really a weakness with me and with most Americans, I think, right, to build a community around themselves. Yeah, there used to be this thing where if you had like a discussion, and it was kind of this rule at the beginning of the discussion that if somebody left, like they felt the need to leave, then we should stop and really think about why that person felt the need to leave, right? Not necessarily talk about them, like they're some kind of problem, but talk about what happened, right? Instead of just glossing over it or, okay, well, we have other business that we need to get to, or, you know, whatever, you know, to deal with the situation as it is right there, even if it's messy. You know? Yeah.
Almost especially if it's messy.
Yeah.
Like, and I think, and also just understanding that, like, different people have different traumas, different boundaries, different places where things, and sometimes you don't even know what's going to trigger something for you. Just like, oh, wow, that was that, you know, and understanding that, you know. Yeah. I think that building community, I will say I didn't know that I was building it for a long time in my life, and then it just turned out I was. So I think that that's awesome, but I do think that it could be more intentional. You know, like, you can look at the people around you and say, I want to have certain types of people in my life, and these are the people that I'm going to curate that with, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy thing to do, especially if you're part of a marginalized group.
And it seems like putting that message out there might attract some people to it, because they might be thinking it too, or might be thinking, oh, maybe that's, you know, what I need. That sounds great. My heart is going there, you know? Yeah.
And sometimes, I guess in my opinion, sometimes, like, the path, it finds you, like, you don't find it. So, like, you know, sometimes just living your life in certain ways, just different people fall off and different people join, you know? Yeah. And I think being open and willing to do that and just, like, live within those is also important. Do you think so?
And also, you can't, like, save everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you can't save anybody.
Yeah.
You can't save anybody. Yeah. Everybody saves themselves. But, like, you can't even help some people save themselves, you know? Yeah. Advice,
helping, saving. These can all be dominating things. Definitely.
Yeah.
I also, you know, I really think that our aligned politics are what help keep this household together too. I don't think I could do it. I definitely couldn't do it if I didn't share the same politics with everybody that's co-owning this house.
Yeah, I agree.
But I also think about community building and the, you know, the writers, creatives, artists that I read about and listen to, and some say that you already have community and that it's something that you just need to expand upon if need be. In disability justice frameworks, a lot of disabled people, especially with the ongoing pandemic, are extremely isolated. They don't have community anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about this, I'm like, how do immunocompromised and disabled folks do this when there's so much systemic oppression and so many people that are complicit and not wanting to learn about disability justice? And I think that's a huge issue too. There's so many unknowns. There are things that I don't know and don't have the answers for, and I'm just trying to figure out. And in terms of a blueprint, getting money for the down payment is an issue that I don't have advice for people about that. That's also a lot of systemic oppression. And I fell into that because I have a dead parent. And he had a life insurance policy. I don't suggest that, so that's also something that I don't have an answer for there either. Yeah.
That is a hard one too, because I also have a dead parent, and that's why I have some extra money also. But again, I mean, maybe you can make that happen for yourself, but I don't know. It gets real awkward there. Yeah. So yeah. But,
there's also, because, we are in a capitalistic system, and it's so tricky and so, there's so much risk in it, right? And the law is toward people who have more money and have more power. And so
that's who gets the voice, too.
Sorry.
I was saying, it's like that's who gets the voice. We all know what Elon Musk thinks,
right? Yeah, I'm talking more about sharing resources within a community, though. So even though we can think about big things like Elon and all that, it really is around us too. Like
that's true.
Asking for help, asking for financial help always has so much shame behind it. Especially if you're poor, it's like, no fucking way I'm gonna ask or whatever.
That pull your own self up.
Mentality. But that kind of mentality actually reinforces it.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no shame in asking for help.
No, but we as a culture at least do shame people for asking for help for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've fallen into that. I know even in my family, there's like the belief that even though we have a huge family with a lot of community, there's a lot of individualism within that family. Like you don't ask for help, you do it all yourself, which doesn't, it's a community as much as it is, And when my dad died, I found that to be very interesting, how many people just separated rather than came together, and how hard it was to keep people together and to keep people talking about what's hurting them. I think that was really hard for me I didn't realize how easy it is for us to talk to each other in the fun times when everything's great. But then, and this is, for everybody, I think it's hard when you're saying, I'm actually not doing well.
Yeah.
Like instead of saying that to people, we say, oh, I'm fine.
Right.
When you're not fine, it's okay to not be fine. It's actually great to acknowledge that you're not fine.
Right.
And it's actually great to acknowledge that like you're really tired and your back hurts and those kinds of things. That's important. And so I think that's one of those things that we do need to normalize. I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
And that builds the community around you and also says to people that they can say that to you too.
Yeah, I noticed that for myself that, I definitely have privilege. A person of color probably would have had much more police notice than I have had, right? I've gotten out of tickets, for instance. I know I have on this trip. But also I was awarded the state of Texas. I was made to quit high school, been very poor. So for me to be very strong has been an issue, right? So if you're somebody who has been oppressed in various ways, it's like, I just really have to be strong, because if I'm not strong, then I'm going to get more shit, right?
And you're actually not wrong. That's not only is that like a mentality, but like that is how it works. Like I understand that a lot. I always get adaptable. People say I'm very adaptable, which it just means, I can roll with the punches and stand back up. But that also means that I get punched a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you've noticed.
Yeah.
And so I think there's
patience. Oh, you're so patient.
Yeah. No one says I'm patient.
Okay. Well, they say that to me. They're like, oh, you just listened to me vent for an hour or something. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's because I don't have any boundaries.
Yeah.
And now I have to go drink.
Are you sure you weren't raised Catholic?
Christian Science.
Oh, well, there you go. We all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's actually for me something that I'm really working on right now. It's like how to be adaptable and show my children how to be strong, but also how to respect other people's boundaries, how to ask for help, how to admit that you need help,
how to not be so like stubbornly strong. Yeah.
Because I want my kids to be strong. I want them to have strength in the ways, and myself too, strength in the ways that are important and necessary. I want them to stand up for themselves. I want them to do those things, and I want them to feel like they can do those things. But I also want them to know when to ask for help. Because there is a real strength in that. There's a real strength in learning how to rely on other people also. And I don't know that our culture encourages that as much as I think that we should.
It is also community building.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the act of relying on other people does build community. I would agree. Yeah. And also it's good to be in both positions. Like sometimes you need to be the person who can be strong and is being leaned on. And sometimes you're the person who needs to do the leaning. And I think that it's really important to do both. Do you have anything to say?
Coming from an immigrant family, it was modeled to me and told to me that it was not safe to trust people outside of our family. I think there is a lot of because of the oppression that they faced, it makes sense that they thought that and still think that. And at the same time, like Yara was saying, that I think that vulnerability is a strength. I think kindness is a strength. I think compassion is a strength. And so are boundaries, right? I think that, those are all values that I have, and I still respect and understand why my parents are the way that they are. And I always try to contextualize and their experiences within frameworks and the history of Korea and the history of the U.S. and the U.S. immigration policy and history.
Does it bring you closer to them in a way?
In a way, it does. I feel like putting in the effort to understand their history, my history, and fill in the gaps of what I don't know, because there is that language barrier. And so it helps me to create empathy. I feel like I have an endless amount of empathy for their experiences and everything that I will never understand.
And a lot of older people don't talk about their trauma. Like, I think as younger people, and I'm going to say we're younger, I'm 50 and I'm in my 50s, but I feel like people who are older than me don't want to really talk about their trauma. So it's different. It's different. So noticing maybe things that are going on that are unspoken, and addressing that. I'm still trying to work that out, I think. I just think it's really important to somehow make that bridge to older people who obviously didn't have any voice.
Especially like, I think about my grandma, who we all joking, well, it's not really a joke, it's just true, we just kind of laugh about it, that she just died with so many secrets. And I just, I just wonder what some of those were and what those would have looked like for her. Because, she grew up in the 20s. It couldn't, there's got to be some things that were pretty traumatic, but she just took it in stride and just died still traumatized. And that makes me really sad, actually, for her. And my dad too, it makes me really sad for him that he never got to deal with any of that stuff. And not for me, I can deal with whatever I want, but for him, it just, for all of us, it's like I want to know as many true things as possible. So it makes me sad that it just makes me wonder what their life could have been like if they had just spoken some of those truths out. And I understand how scary that can be to say those things out loud and to acknowledge that those exist within yourself. But I think that it would have been probably really freeing. So I try to do that. Probably will find new things, but I think that's an important part of it. And I think it also puts you, when you can say those things to yourself, you can say them to other people. And also when you can say those things to yourself, you can also say them to other people. You can recognize other people and recognize other people's traumas. And not that excuses their issues or what's going on or how they're treating you. But for me, at least, when I feel a little informed about what is going on for other people, it helps me know how to process it. So it doesn't traumatize.
How much to take in?
Yeah, it doesn't traumatize me in the same way as it maybe would have, you know?
Okay, so we have so much to talk about here. And we also have responsibilities in our lives. And so I was thinking that we could wrap this up with, you were talking about the praxis of love. Is that it? Yeah. Could you elucidate that and about what that means?
I think I'm still exploring it, and I probably will for my whole life, but really trying to understand love as a verb, trying to lead with love. I want my actions to all feel that way for others and for myself, and I think that is what we're doing in this household. You know, I really want to disengage with white supremacy, capitalism, imperialism, ableism, all of the isms, and I think that is reimagining and world building together. And I'll be doing that forever.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I think I agree with the practice of love and the practice of kindness. I also would like to continue to educate myself and educate other people and my children. As, like I said, for me, my real goal in my life is to know as many true things as possible, whether I don't think the truth has a value judgment of good or bad. I think it just stands on its own. It's true. So I just want to continue to do that. I think that's really important. And I also think that it's really important to speak those truths. Like when I'm very into history, very into that kind of stuff. And when people are talking about history and things like that, I like to be able to and be like, well, actually, here's what happened. Because I really feel like as we as a culture and as a people continue on, we need to know where we came from and not the fairy tale I was taught.
Yeah.
We need to know the truth.
There's a lot of myths in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need, you can think that those things are fun and you can enjoy thinking about them, but if you don't know the truth, then you're being fooled.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're going. Right. And for me, I think that is the most important thing that I am trying to impart into my life. And what I bring out to the world is just, you know, let's do some true things.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I like.
Yeah. I noticed that you keep punctuating things that you think are true with what was that? You had a particular thing that you said like that, and that's the truth, or
real talk.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, because I do make a lot of jokes too.
Yeah.
But like, I want people to know, and I mean, like, no, but this is what I think. This is the real shit right there. Sorry, the real stuff.
No. I actually encourage swearing because then the platforms and YouTube and whatever won't put ads on this, hopefully. So swear it up. All you want.
If only I had known.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Sam knows usually, like,
fuck this country.
Yeah.
Fuck the police.
Yeah, a cab.
So many things, but we do have to end it. So we have our responsibilities. Thank you so much. I loved talking to you today. So smart, so much heart, and so much like good modeling, and I just love it. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for talking with me. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Cool. Here in Spokane, radical stuff is happening. All right. Bye, y'all.